I never believed in fate until that rainy Tuesday evening when I walked into that small coffee shop on 5th Street. And there he was. Daniel. My first love. The one who broke my heart into a million pieces 15 years ago when we were both naive college students who thought we knew everything about love. She looked up from his laptop, and our eyes met across the crowded cafe. Time seemed to freeze. The same piercing blue eyes that once made me weak in the knees, the same crooked smile that used to make my heart skip beats. But now there were lines around those eyes, a maturity in his expression that wasn't there when we were 22. Emma? His voice was deeper now, more confident than the uncertain boy I once knew. My coffee cup trembled in my hands. Daniel. The weight of 15 years hung between us like an invisible pole. 15 years of wondering what if, of late-night thoughts about the one who got away, of comparing every man I dated to the memory of him. And here he was, real and breathing, and looking at me like he'd seen a ghost. Can I? He gestured to the empty chair across from me. Can I sit? I nodded, not trusting my voice, and as he settled into the chair, I caught a whiff of his cologne, different from the cheap drugstore brand he used to wear in college, but somehow it still made my pulse quicken. You look... He paused, studying my face. You look incredible. Thank you. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a nervous habit that apparently hadn't changed since college. You look good too. Successful. He laughed, and God, even his laugh was the same. I suppose I can't complain. Started my own architectural firm 5 years ago. It's been challenging, but rewarding. I remember you always wanted to design buildings that would last forever. The words tumbled out before I could stop them, revealing that I'd held on to every dream he'd ever shared with me. His expression softened. And you wanted to be a journalist who would change the world. I got close. Investigative reporter for the Tribune now. I tried to keep the pride out of my voice, but failed. That's amazing. Emma, I always knew you'd make it. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the noise of the coffee shop fading into background static. I studied his hands wrapped around his mug, still those long, artistic fingers that used to trace patterns on my skin, but now adorned with a simple silver wedding band that felt like a punch to my gut. You're married. It wasn't a question. He glanced down at his ring, and for a split second, something flickered across his face. Regret? Sadness? But it was gone so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined it. 3 years now. Rebecca, she's... He trailed off, staring into his coffee. She's lucky, I managed, surprised by how steady my voice sounded when my heart was crumbling all over again. What about you? His eyes searched my face. Anyone special? I shook my head. I was engaged last year, but it didn't work out. I didn't mention that I'd called it off because Michael could never measure up to the ghost of my first love sitting across from me. I'm sorry. Don't be. It wasn't right. I took a sip of my coffee, trying to wash away the bitterness of old regrets. Sometimes I think we spend so much time looking for something that we've already lost that we miss what's right in front of us. Daniel's eyes locked with mine, and the intensity of his gaze made me feel like that 22-year-old girl again, falling helplessly in love with a boy who would leave me standing in the rain outside his apartment building with a suitcase full of broken dreams. Emma, I need to tell you something about why I... Daniel? A woman's voice cut through our moment like a knife. We both turned to see a tall, elegant blonde approaching our table. She was beautiful in that effortless way that made other women hate her on sight. Perfect hair, perfect skin, perfect everything. Rebecca. Daniel stood up quickly, kissing her cheek. I didn't expect you here. I finished the deposition early and thought I'd surprise you. Her smile was warm as she looked at me. I'm Rebecca, Daniel's wife. Emma. I stood as well, extending my hand. Daniel and I went to college together. Rebecca's handshake was firm, confident. Oh, how wonderful. It's so nice when old friends reconnect. Old friends. If only she knew that this old friend used to know exactly how her husband liked his coffee in the morning and what made him laugh until his sides hurt. Emma's an investigative reporter for the Tribune, Daniel said, and I caught something in his tone. Pride? Warning? How exciting! Rebecca's enthusiasm seemed genuine. I'm a corporate lawyer myself. What kind of stories do you work on? Mostly corruption cases. Politicians, businessmen who think they're above the law. I glanced at Daniel, remembering how he used to say I had a gift for reading people, for seeing through their facades. That must be fascinating work. Rebecca linked her arm through Daniel's possessively. Well, I hate to interrupt, but we have dinner reservations at 8. Of course. I gathered my things, trying to ignore the way Daniel was looking at me. It was lovely meeting you, Rebecca, and Daniel. I paused, our eyes meeting one last time. It was good to see you again. As I walked toward the door, I heard Rebecca ask, "She seems nice. Were you two close in college?" I didn't wait to hear his answer. Some questions were better left unspoken, but as I stepped out into the rain, I felt my phone buzz with a text from an unknown number. I need to see you again. There's so much I need to explain. D. I stared at the message for a long moment. Rain droplets blurring the screen on. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to delete it, to pretend this encounter had never happened. But my heart, that traitorous organ that had never quite healed from losing him the first time, had other plans. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in a dimly lit wine bar downtown, checking my watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. Daniel was late, and I was beginning to think this was a mistake. What was I doing here? The man was married, for God's sake. I'm sorry, his voice came from behind me. Rebecca had a client emergency. I turned to find him looking haggard, like he hadn't slept since our coffee shop encounter. We shouldn't be doing this. Daniel. I know. He slid into the booth across from me. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I was going to tell you before Rebecca showed up. The waiter appeared, and Daniel ordered a bottle of wine without consulting me. The same Pinot Noir we used to drink in college when we could afford it. Some memories, it seemed, never faded. You said you had things to explain, I prompted once the waiter left. He was quiet for so long I wondered if he'd changed his mind. When he finally spoke, His voice was barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to leave you, Emma." The words hit me like a physical blow. "But you did. You packed up and moved to Seattle without even discussing it with me." "Because I had to." His hand was clenched into fists on the table. "My father was dying, and my mother couldn't handle it alone. And I had 6 months left of school, and I couldn't afford to fly back and forth. I had to choose. You chose your family over me. I chose responsibility over love." His eyes met mine, and I saw pain there that matched my own. And I've regretted it every single day since. I stared at him, feeling the carefully constructed walls I'd built around my heart beginning to crumble. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you explain?" "Because I knew if I told you the truth, you'd have come with me. You'd have dropped out of school, given up your dreams, and I couldn't let you do that. You were too bright, too talented to waste your life following me. That should have been my choice to make. You're right, but I was 22 and terrified and trying to do what I thought was best for everyone." He reached across the table, his fingers grazing mine. "I wrote you letters. Hundreds of them, but I never sent them, because what was the point? I had nothing to offer you except a dying father and a mountain of debt." The wine arrived, and Daniel poured us each a glass with shaking hands. I took a large gulp, hoping the alcohol would numb the ache in my chest. "So you moved on, got married. I tried to forget you. For 15 years, I tried." He leaned forward, his voice intense. "I met Rebecca at a conference 3 years ago. She's brilliant, successful, everything a man should want in a wife. But she's not you." The words hung between us like a confession. I thought I could learn to love her the way I loved you. I thought if I tried hard enough, I could build something real with her. And have you? He was quiet for a long moment, staring into his wine glass. "Rebecca deserves better than a husband who thinks about another woman every day." I felt my breath catch. "Daniel, I know it's not fair to you, and it's definitely not fair to her, but seeing you again." He looked up, and the raw honesty in his eyes made my chest tight. It's like the last 15 years never happened, like no time has passed at all. But it has passed. We're different people now. Are we? He reached across the table again, this time taking my hand fully in his wedding ring pressed against my palm, a cold reminder of the reality we were dancing around. "Because sitting here with you, I feel exactly like that 22-year-old kid who was head over heels in love with the smartest, most beautiful girl in his journalism class." I should have pulled my hand away. Should have reminded him that he was married, that this was wrong, that we were playing with fire. Instead, I found myself squeezing his fingers. "What are we doing, Daniel?" "I don't know." His thumb traced circles on my knuckles, the same gesture that used to calm me during college finals week. "All I know is that I can't let you disappear from my life again." We talked until the bar closed, catching up on 15 years of separate lives, sharing stories and memories and the kind of easy conversation that only comes from truly knowing someone. By the time we parted ways, it was after midnight, and I felt like I was floating. Over the next 2 weeks, we fell into a routine. Coffee during his lunch breaks, long walks in the park, text messages that grew increasingly intimate. I told myself we were just friends reconnecting, but the way he looked at me, the way his hand lingered when he helped me with my coat, the way my pulse raced every time his phone lit up with his name, none of that felt friendly. "You're glowing," my best friend Sarah commented over lunch one Friday. "Please tell me you've finally met someone who isn't a complete disaster." I nearly choked on my salad, and if only she knew. Just work stuff. I'm on the verge of breaking a big story. Sarah's expression was skeptical. "Since when does investigative journalism give you that dreamy look in your eyes?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Free tonight? I want to cook for you." My heart did that annoying flutter thing it had been doing constantly since we'd reconnected. "Actually, I do have a date tonight. Finally. Tell me everything." "What's his name? What does he do? How did you meet?" I hesitated, weighing my words carefully. "His name is Daniel. He's an architect. We have history." "History as in you dated before?" "College boyfriend." Sarah's eyes widened. "The Daniel? The one you compared every guy to for years? The one who—" "Yes, that Daniel. Emma, please tell me he's not married anymore." My silence was answer enough. "Oh, honey." Sarah's expression shifted from excitement to concern. "Please be careful. I know how much he meant to you, but I know what I'm doing," I said, even though I absolutely didn't. That evening, I stood outside Daniel's apartment building, clutching a bottle of wine and trying to convince myself this was just dinner between old friends. The building was modern, expensive. Clearly, his architectural firm was doing well. He answered the door in jeans and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him since our reunion. "You found it. GPS is a wonderful thing." I handed him the wine, trying not to notice how his eyes lit up when he saw the label, the same vintage we'd shared on our anniversary in college. His apartment was stunning. All clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city skyline. It was sophisticated, adult, nothing like the cramped dorm room where we used to study together. "This is beautiful," I said, wandering to the windows. "Thanks. I designed it myself." He moved to stand beside me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Sometimes I stand here and remember what it felt like to dream about building something like this. Back when we used to talk about our futures like they were fairy tales. They weren't fairy tales. Look at us now. You're a successful architect. I'm an investigative reporter. We made our dreams come true. Some of them. His voice was soft, heavy with meaning. Dinner was perfect. Pasta with homemade sauce, wine, candlelight. Conversation that flowed as easily as it had in college. We talked about books, movies, travel, everything except the elephant in the room. What we were doing and where this was leading. After dinner, we moved to his couch with the rest of the wine, sitting close enough that our knees touched. The city lights twinkled below us. But all I could focus on was the way Daniel was looking at me. "I need to tell you something," he said, setting down his wine glass. "What?" "Rebecca doesn't know about you, about us meeting again." I felt a chill run down my spine. Why not? Because she'd see right through me. She's a lawyer. Emma. She reads people for a living. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I remembered from college when he was stressed. She'd take one look at me after I mentioned running into you, and she'd know. Know what? That I'm still in love with you. And the words hung in the air between us, heavy and dangerous and irrevocable. I stared at him, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Daniel, I know it's not fair. I know I have no right to say that to you when I'm married to someone else, but I can't keep pretending anymore." He shifted closer, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. "These past 2 weeks with you have been the happiest I've been in years." "This is crazy," I whispered, but I didn't pull away from his touch. "I know. You're married. I know. We could ruin everything. I know." His thumb traced along my cheekbone. "But Emma, I've spent 15 years trying to get over you, trying to someone else, and I can't. I won't pretend anymore that what I feel for you is just nostalgia or unfinished business. It's love. Real, consuming, never going to go away love." I closed my eyes, leaning into his touch. Every rational thought in my head was screaming at me to stop this before it went too far. But my heart was singing a different song entirely. "I love you too," I whispered. And the admission felt like jumping off a cliff. When his lips met mine, it was like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. 15 years melted away in an instant, and we were young again, desperate and passionate and completely lost in each other. That night, we crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, lying in his arms afterward, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. I tried not to think about the framed wedding photo I'd seen on his nightstand before he'd quietly turned it face down. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper in the darkness. "I don't know." His arms tightened around me. "All I know is that I can't lose you again. But Rebecca, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to make this right." Looking back, I think we both knew he was lying. But in that moment, wrapped up in each other, and the intoxicating rush of first love rekindled, we chose to believe in fairy tales. For 3 months, we lived in a bubble of stolen moments and secret meetings. Coffee dates that turned into long lunches. Evening work dinners that lasted until midnight. Weekend business trips that were actually romantic getaways to small towns where no one knew us. I became an expert at lying, to my friends, to my colleagues, to myself. When Sarah asked why I seemed so happy lately, I told her I was just enjoying being single. When my editor commented on my renewed enthusiasm for work, I credited it to a breakthrough on a story. When I looked in the mirror and saw the glow that comes from being thoroughly loved, I pretended it was just good skincare. Daniel and I were careful. We never went to places where we might run into anyone we knew. We used burner phones to text each other. We created elaborate cover stories for our absences. For 3 months, we almost convinced ourselves that we could keep our secret forever. The first crack in our fantasy came on a Tuesday evening in October. I was waiting for Daniel at our usual wine bar when I saw a familiar blonde head across the room. Rebecca was sitting at a corner table with another woman, her back to me. But I'd recognize that perfect posture anywhere. I quickly texted Daniel. "Rebecca's here. Don't come." His response was immediate. "Where?" "Corner table by the window. She's with someone. I'm 5 minutes away. Going home." I should have left then. Should have paid my pa and slipped out the back exit. Instead, curiosity got the better of me. I moved to a different table where I could observe Rebecca without being seen, ordering another glass of wine and pretending to read the news on my phone. Rebecca looked different than she had at the coffee shop months ago. Tired. Stressed. Her usual perfect composure seemed frayed around the edges, and she was gripping her wine glass like a lifeline. "I just don't know what to do, Claire," I heard her say to her companion, a petite brunette who was leaning forward with concern. "He's been so distant lately, distracted. He works late constantly, goes on these mysterious business trips, and when he is home, it's like he's not really there." My blood turned to ice. "Have you talked to him about it?" Claire asked. "I've tried, but every time I bring it up, he gets defensive and changes the subject." Rebecca's voice cracked slightly. "I'm starting to wonder if there's someone else." The wine glass slipped in my hand, nearly falling to the table. I steadied it, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Rebecca, honey, you can't torture yourself with suspicions. Daniel loves you. Everyone can see that." Rebecca let out a bitter laugh. "Can they? Because lately, I feel like I'm married to a stranger. He barely touches me anymore." "Claire, when was the last time your husband looked at you like he couldn't remember why he married you?" I felt sick. This beautiful, intelligent woman was falling apart because of what Daniel and I were doing, and she had no idea that in my selfish happiness, I'd never really considered her as a real person with real feelings. She was just an obstacle, a complication in my love story. But listening to her now, hearing the pain in her voice, I realized she was the innocent victim in all of this. "Maybe it's just work stress," Claire suggested weakly. "Maybe." Rebecca didn't sound convinced. "Or maybe I'm just not enough for him anymore." I couldn't listen to another word. I left money on the table and practically ran from the restaurant, my hands shaking as I texted Daniel. "We need to talk. Tomorrow." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, Rebecca's words echoing in my head. "When was the last time your husband looked at you like he couldn't remember why he married you?" I'd been so caught up in my own happiness that I'd forgotten there was another woman whose happiness I was destroying. And not just any woman, a woman who seemed kind and smart and completely undeserving of what we were putting her through. The next evening, I met Daniel at a small park near his office. He looked concerned the moment he saw my face. "What's wrong?" "I heard Rebecca talking to a friend last night." I told him everything, watching his expression grow more pained with each word. When I finished, he sank onto a park bench, his head in his hands. "I didn't realize she'd noticed." "How could she not notice? You're having an affair." "Daniel, of course she notices. I've been trying to keep things normal at home, but..." He looked up at me, his eyes tortured. "Emma, when I'm with her, and all I can think about is you. When she talks to me, I hear your voice. When she touches me, I remember your hands. I'm a terrible husband. Then why don't you leave her? The question hung between us like a challenge. It was the first time either of us had said it out loud. The obvious solution that we'd both been dancing around for months. It's not that simple. Why not? You said you love me. I do love you. More than I've ever loved anyone. He stood up, pacing in front of the bench. But Emma, Rebecca and I have a life together. A house, shared finances, friends, her family, who's become my family. I can't just blow all of that up without being sure. Sure of what? That this isn't just nostalgia, chemistry, unfinished business from college. I felt like he'd slapped me. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think anymore. He stopped pacing, turning to face me. What we have is incredible, but it's also built on secrecy and stolen moments. How do I know it would survive in the real world? Because real love always survives, I said, standing up to face him. But apparently, you don't believe what we have is real love. Emma, that's not... No, you've made your position clear. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You want to keep me as your secret while you figure out whether I'm worth leaving your comfortable life for. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Daniel, not to me, not to Rebecca, not to anyone. I took a step back, creating distance between us. I love you. I've loved you for 15 years, through every relationship that didn't work out, through every lonely night, through every moment when I wondered what my life would have been like if you'd stayed. But I won't be your mistress while you decide whether I'm worth the risk. Emma, please, I need space, time to think. I turned to walk away, then paused on. And Daniel, you need to decide what kind of man you want to be. Because the man I fell in love with in college would never have let the woman he loved hear his wife cry about feeling unloved. I left him standing there in the park and didn't look back. For 2 weeks, I threw myself into work, staying late at the office and taking on extra assignments to keep my mind occupied. I ignored Daniel's calls and texts, deleted them without reading them. I avoided our usual coffee shop and took different routes to work to minimize the chance of running into him. Sarah noticed my mood shift immediately. Okay, what happened with the mystery man? She asked over lunch one Friday. It ended. Want to talk about it? Not really. I pushed my salad around on my plate. Not really hungry. Emma, you look like someone died. This was more than just a casual fling, wasn't it? I looked up at my best friend, the person who'd been there through every heartbreak and triumph of my adult life, and felt the weight of all my secrets crushing down on me. He was married, I said quietly. Sarah's fork clattered to her plate. Oh, honey. Oh, no. I know it was wrong. I know I'm a terrible person. You're not a terrible person. You're human. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. But, Emma, you deserve better than being someone's secret. I know. The tears I'd been holding back for 2 weeks finally spilled over. I love him, Sarah. I love him so much it physically hurts, but I can't keep destroying another woman's marriage. Did he say he was going to leave her? He said he needed to be sure, that he needed to figure out if what we had was real or just nostalgia. Sarah's expression hardened. That's bullshit, and you know it. After 15 years, he should know exactly how he feels about you. Maybe, or maybe he's right. Maybe this was just us trying to recapture something that was already lost. Do you believe that? I thought about it for a long moment, remembering the way Daniel looked at me, the way he held me, the conversations that lasted until dawn. No, what we had was real, but maybe that doesn't matter if he's not willing to fight for it. That weekend, I made a decision. I was going to move on. Delete Daniel's number, stop frequenting places we'd been together, maybe even consider that job offer I'd received from a newspaper in Boston. Start fresh somewhere new, away from all the memories and might-have-beens. I was cleaning out my apartment, packing up anything that reminded me of Daniel, when my phone rang. Rebecca's name flashed on the caller ID. My blood ran cold. How did she get my number? What did she know? Hello? I answered, my voice carefully neutral. Emma? This is Rebecca Stevens, Daniel's wife. We met at that coffee shop a few months ago. Oh, yes. Hi, Rebecca. How are you? Well, actually, I was hoping we could meet for coffee. I have something I'd like to discuss with you. My heart was pounding so hard, I was surprised she couldn't hear it through the phone. Oh? It's about Daniel. The bottom dropped out of my world. I'm not sure I understand. Please, Emma, I just need an hour of your time. There's something you need to know. Against every instinct screaming at me to hang up and run. I found myself agreeing to meet her the next day at a coffee shop downtown. Not the one where Daniel and I had first reunited, but close enough to feel like cruel irony. I spent the entire night imagining different scenarios. Maybe she knew about the affair and wanted to confront me. Maybe she was planning to leave Daniel and wanted to hand him over with some kind of twisted blessing. Maybe she was going to threaten me, demand that I stay away from her husband. I never could have imagined the truth. Rebecca was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She stood when she saw me, and I was struck again by how beautiful she was, tall, elegant, with the kind of natural grace that made other women feel awkward. "Thank you for coming," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "I wasn't sure you would. I have to admit, I'm curious about what you wanted to discuss." She studied my face for a moment, and I tried to keep my expression neutral. If she knew about the affair, she was hiding it well. "Emma, can I ask you something? And will you promise to be honest with me?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Do you love my husband?" The direct question caught me completely off guard. I stared at her, my mouth opening and closing without sound. "I know about the affair," she said quietly, and my world tilted sideways. "Rebecca, please, let me finish." She held up a hand. "I've known for months. Daniel's not as good at hiding things as he thinks he is. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the way he looks through me like I'm not even there. I hired a private investigator 6 weeks ago. felt sick. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I never meant for what? For falling in love with him. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. Emma, I need you to understand something. I love Daniel. I've loved him since the day I met him 3 years ago. But do you know what I discovered when I started really paying attention to him? I shook my head, afraid to speak. He's never loved me. Not really. Not the way a husband should love his wife. Her voice was steady, but I could see tears gathering in her eyes. When we met, he was charming and attentive, and everything a woman could want. But there was always something missing, a distance. Like he was going through the motions of being in love without actually feeling it. Rebecca, I used to think it was just his personality. That maybe he was one of those men who didn't express emotion easily. But then I started finding things. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small wooden box. Letters, dozens of them, hidden in his desk drawer, and all addressed to someone named Emma. My breath caught. The letters he'd mentioned writing, but never sending. I read them, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, and every single one. 15 years of love letters to the woman who got away. Letters about missing you, regretting losing you, wondering what you were doing and whether you ever thought of him. I stared at the box, recognizing Daniel's careful handwriting on the envelope visible through the crack in the lid. When he married me, Emma, I was marrying a man who was still in love with someone else. I just didn't know it yet. I'm so sorry, I whispered, and I meant it. The pain in her eyes was unbearable. Are you really? She leaned back, studying me. Because from where I'm sitting, you've done me the biggest favor of my life. I blinked, confused. I don't understand. For 3 years, I've been trying to figure out why my marriage felt like something was missing. Why my brilliant, successful husband felt like a stranger half the time. Why I felt like I was competing with a ghost I couldn't even see. She gestured to the box of letters. Now I know how I can stop blaming myself for not being enough. Rebecca, what are you saying? I'm saying that I deserve better than being someone's consolation prize. I deserve a man who looks at me the way Daniel looks at you. She paused, wiping away a tear that had escaped despite her composure. And he deserves to be with the woman he's never stopped loving. I stared at her, completely speechless. I'm leaving him. Emma, oh! I've already filed for divorce. Because of me? Because of me. Because I finally realized that staying in a marriage where I'm not truly loved is worse than being alone. She stood up, gathering her purse. I wanted to meet with you, to give you these letters, and to tell you something. She placed the wooden box on the table between us. Whatever happens between you and Daniel now, it's not built on a lie anymore. He's free to choose you without destroying an innocent woman's life. Because Emma, that woman was never me. I was the other woman from the day we met. Just didn't know it. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I don't hate you. How can I hate someone for loving a man who's impossible not to love? I just hope you both find the happiness that's been eluding you for 15 years. And with that, she walked out of the coffee shop, leaving me alone with a box full of Daniel's heart and a future that suddenly looked completely different than it had an hour before. I sat there for a long time, staring at the box, afraid to open it. Finally, with trembling hands, I lifted the lid. The letters were organized chronologically, starting from shortly after he'd left for Seattle. The first one was dated just 2 weeks after our breakup. Emma, I know I have no right to write to you after what I did, but I can't stop thinking about you. I wonder if you hate me, if you understand why I left, if you're better off without me, so I hope you are. Even though the thought of you moving on feels like dying a little. I love you. I will always love you, Daniel. I flipped through them, my vision blurring with tears. 15 years of love, regret, and longing, all hidden away in a box while he tried to build a life with someone else. The last letter was dated just a month before we'd reunited at the coffee shop. Emma, I'm getting married next week to a woman who deserves so much better than a man who thinks about his college girlfriend every day. Rebecca is beautiful and smart and kind, and I'm trying so hard to love her the way she deserves to be loved. But late at night, when she's sleeping beside me, I wonder what you're doing, whether you're happy, whether you ever think of me, whether you'd forgive me if you knew how sorry I am for not fighting harder for us. I hope you're well. I hope you're loved. I hope someday I'll be able to write these letters to my wife instead of to a memory. But I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be. I love you, Emma. I always have. I always will, Daniel. I closed the box, my hands shaking. Rebecca was right. Their marriage had been doomed from the start. Ihumal. I hadn't broken up a happy home. I'd simply revealed the cracks that were already there. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Rebecca told me she met with you. Emma, please, can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, come over tonight. We need to figure out what happens now. 3 hours later, Daniel stood in my doorway looking like he'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen him. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion. Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to find out this way. Come in. I stepped aside, letting him into my apartment. The box of letters sat on my coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. He saw them immediately and winced. She gave them to you. Every single one. I curled up in the corner of my couch, pulling my knees to my chest. 15 years of letters, Daniel. 15 years of loving me while trying to convince yourself you could love someone else. He sat on the other end of the couch, careful to maintain distance between us. I thought I could make it work with her. I wanted to make it work, but you couldn't. No. He looked at me, his eyes full of pain. Emma, I tried so hard to be the husband she deserved, but every time she said she loved me, I felt like a fraud. And because I know what real love feels like, and what I felt for her wasn't it. So why did you marry her? Because I thought what we had was gone forever. Because I thought I needed to move on. Build a life with someone real instead of living in the past. He ran his hands through his hair. And because I was a coward who was afraid to be alone, I studied his face. This man who'd shaped every relationship I'd had for 15 years. What happens now? I don't know. Rebecca's moving out this weekend. She wants a clean break, no drawn-out proceedings. We don't have kids, so it should be relatively simple. He looked down at his hands. But Emma, I need you to know that even if you don't want to try again, I'm glad this happened. Rebecca deserves better than what I was giving her. Do you want to try again? More than anything, but only if you do. Only if you think we can build something real this time. Not just stolen moments and secret meetings. I thought about Rebecca's words earlier. He deserves to be with the woman he's never stopped loving. And I thought about the last 3 months. The happiest I'd been since I was 22 years old. I'm scared, I admitted. So am I. What if we're both so in love with the memory of what we had that we can't build something new? Then we'll figure it out together. He moved closer, taking my hands in his. Emma, I know I've handled everything badly. I should have left Rebecca the moment I realized I still loved you. I should have been honest with everyone from the beginning. But I can't change the past. What I can do is promise that if you give us another chance, I'll never hide from the truth again. I looked down at our joined hands, his wedding ring conspicuously absent. I took it off this morning, he said, noticing my gaze. I should have taken it off months ago, Daniel. I know I'm asking you to take a huge leap of faith. I know I've given you every reason not to trust me. But Emma, you're the love of my life. You always have been. These past 15 years have just been me trying to convince myself otherwise. I studied his face, searching for any hint of doubt or uncertainty. All I saw was love, the same desperate, all-consuming love I'd seen in his eyes when we were young and stupid and thought love could conquer anything. If we do this, I said slowly, we do it right. No more secrets, no more lies. We figure out how to make this work in the real world, not just in hidden corners and stolen moments. Yes, and we go slow. We get to know each other again, as the people we are now, not just the people we were in college. Whatever you need. And Daniel, if it doesn't work, if we realize we're just chasing ghosts, we walk away with dignity. No more destruction, no more broken hearts. Agreed. He lifted our joined hands to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to my knuckles. But Emma, I don't think we're chasing ghosts. I think we're finally chasing the truth. 6 months later, I woke up in Daniel's arms on a lazy Sunday morning, sunlight streaming through the windows of the apartment we'd bought together. It was smaller than his previous place, much less sophisticated, but it was ours. Built on honesty instead of secrets, love instead of obligation. Good morning, he murmured against my hair. Morning. I twisted in his arms to face him, still amazed that this was real, that we were real. I have something for you. He reached over to his nightstand, pulling out an envelope. Another letter? The last one. He handed it to me, his expression nervous. I started writing to you again after Rebecca left, but this time, I'm actually giving it to you. I opened the envelope, my heart already racing. Emma, I'm writing this on our 6-month anniversary. Not of getting back together, but of finally being honest about what we mean to each other. For 15 years, I've been writing letters to a memory, to a ghost, to the girl I lost when I was too young and too scared to fight for love. But you're not that girl anymore. And I'm not that boy. We're better now, stronger, brave enough to choose love even when it's complicated, even when it's scary, even when it means rebuilding everything from scratch. I love the woman you've become, fierce and independent and brilliant. I love that you challenge me, that you make me want to be better than I am. I love that you saw through all my excuses and demanded that I choose what I really wanted instead of what was easy. But mostly, I love that you were brave enough to give us another chance. I can't promise that love will be enough this time, but I can promise that I'll never stop fighting for us, never stop choosing you, never stop being grateful that the universe gave us a second chance to get it right. So all my love. Always. Daniel P. Check the nightstand drawer. With shaking hands, I opened the drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. Emma, Daniel said, sitting up and taking the box from my trembling fingers. I know we said we'd go slow, and I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow, but I want you to know that this time I'm all in. Completely, utterly, forever yours. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring. Nothing like the elaborate diamond I'd seen on Rebecca's finger. This was understated, classic, timeless, perfect. Oh. Will you marry me? Not today, not next month, but someday when we're both ready. Will you take a chance on building a life with a man who's spent 15 years learning how much he loves you? I looked at the ring, then at Daniel's face, then at the letter still clutched in my other hand. This wasn't the fairy tale ending I'd dreamed of as a 22-year-old. It was messier, more complicated, built on the ashes of mistakes and broken promises. But it was real. It was honest. It was ours. Yes, I whispered, and when he slipped the ring onto my finger, it felt like coming home. Later that afternoon, we ran into Rebecca at the farmer's market downtown. I tensed, unsure how this encounter would go, but she approached us with a genuine smile. Emma, Daniel. She looked radiant, happier than I'd ever seen her. How are you both? We're well, Daniel said carefully. How are you? Wonderful. Actually, she gestured to a tall, dark-haired man examining produce at a nearby stand. I'd like you to meet someone. James, come here. The man approached with an easy smile, and Rebecca linked her arm through his with obvious affection. James, this is Daniel, my ex-husband, and Emma, his fiancée. If James found the introduction awkward, he didn't show it. He shook both our hands warmly. Nice to meet you both. James and I met at a coffee shop 3 months ago, Rebecca explained, and there was a lightness in her voice that I'd never heard before. Turns out there's something to be said for fresh starts. I'm so happy for you, I said, and meant it completely. Thank you, and congratulations on your engagement. She glanced at the ring on my finger, then back at our faces. You know what I love most about seeing you two together? We waited. You look at each other the way couples should look at each other, like you can't quite believe your luck. She smiled. That's how James looks at me, and how I look at him, and it's how everyone deserves to be looked at. And as they walked away, Daniel squeezed my hand. She's right. You know. About what? I can't quite believe my luck. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my engagement ring. 15 years of writing letters to a dream. And now I get to spend the rest of my life with the reality. Standing there in the afternoon sun, surrounded by the ordinary magic of a weekend market. I realized that sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones that follow a straight line from beginning to end. Sometimes they're the ones that get lost along the way, that break apart and come back together, that teach you that timing isn't everything, but honesty is, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get a second chance to choose love over fear, truth over comfort, and the messy, complicated reality of building a life with someone over the safety of keeping your heart locked away. As we walked home together, planning our future and laughing about our past, I couldn't help but think that the best stories, the ones worth telling, are never really about the destination. They're about the journey, the detours, the mistakes and the forgiveness, and the courage it takes to believe that love, real love, is always worth fighting for, even when it takes 15 years to get it right.